This week on the Inside Athletic Training Podcast, we're joined by Chelsea Willette, the minor league athletic training coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. Chelsea shares her journey through professional baseball, from her early experiences in athletic training to leading and mentoring athletic trainers within the Boston Red Sox organization. Enjoy the show. All right, Chelsea, welcome to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. We're excited to have you on for episode 104 of the show. Before we get into your career, your time with the Dodgers and Red Sox and all your stops through baseball, want to give our listeners a little bit of background information about you. So to kick it off here, let us know where you're from, were you into sports growing up, and also how you found your passion for athletic training and sports medicine.
Yeah, I grew up in Burlington, Vermont. I spent all my childhood there. I went to school in North Carolina, and then after North Carolina, I went out to Arizona to try to pursue baseball. But I grew up playing basketball. I wasn't very good at it, but I loved it anyway. When I was in high school, I got into running cross country and track. I did that through college, and that's kind of when I first got my first dose of athletic training and what that was and what that looked like. But it wasn't until after I graduated from my undergrad that I really got into athletic training. I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist until I did some observational experiences and realized athletic training was probably more created for me or what I would like best.
Mm-hmm. And when you got to school at UNC Greensboro, like you mentioned, did you know that athletic training or physical therapy or some sort of sports medicine career was what you wanted to pursue, or was that something that kind of took some time while you were an undergrad?
Definitely took some time. When I first got to school in North Carolina, I thought I was going to be pre-med. I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, realized that was not for me. And that's when I thought, all right, physical therapy might be more of interest to me. And then after I graduated and did those observational experiences, that's when I realized that there was just something missing. I think it was that competitive piece to it. Mm-hmm. And I was really close with my athletic trainer in college, and she helped me realize that, athletic training will get you that piece because you're part of the team, you're chasing a goal, you're not just returning to work. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but to be the competitive beast, she helped me find that route.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people who were athletes in college or cared about sports kind of, once those days of playing ended, you're looking for, how can I stay in it? And so many of our guests and your colleagues across the league have said that's been a major reason they got into the field. So it's cool to hear you echo that statement there. Chelsea, looking back on your time in school, either, undergrad or getting your master's, was there anything you do differently now, knowing what you know about pro baseball and athletic training? Would you have focused on learning something differently or getting different experiences? What would you kind of change if you could look back on it based on what you know now?
There's definitely a few things I think I would change. I really didn't know how to get into pro baseball after I graduated from UNCG. I took a job at a high school. I was there for 3 years after. That was a great experience because it taught me absolutely everything, because you see everything in high school level. But I knew I wanted to be in pro baseball from my clinical experiences at UNCG. I just didn't know how. So I wish I had delved into the PBATS internship earlier and just found a way to get my foot in the door. I was actually very fortunate that I got into pro baseball from John Hersner. He was my supervisor at the high school level.
Okay, cool.
Before he went back to the Diamondbacks. So he was the one that believed in me to get me in. So I was just fortunate enough to be at the right place at the right time, I think, to pursue what I actually wanted to do.
Yeah, and you've built a career kind of across multiple levels in pro baseball. I know you spent some time with the Athletics, with the Dodgers. Talk about your road. So when like you mentioned, you broke in through a contact you had who had experience in baseball. Once you got in, what were the stops along the way?
So I started, like I said, with the Diamondbacks. I was doing their next gen program. It was about 2 weeks long, and I just kept being a pest. Like, can I come back? Can I come back?
Yeah.
And they were so gracious to me. I ended up being with them from March until December. So, I was just learning everything there, taking it all in, figuring it out. I didn't know what to expect, how different it was from the college setting, because that's what my rotations were like when I was getting my degree, was all collegiate. So they taught me baseball culture, the differences between the two. They helped me find out what my next steps were, which is how I got into the Oakland Athletics organization as their part-time role. When I was there, that's when I get to put everything into practice. Nate Brooks there, Javi, Travis Timms, like, they were phenomenal in the way that they just believed in me, and they realized the experience that I had and just grew it and developed it. They gave me the autonomy to try things out, fall on my face if I needed to, and be there to pick me back up when I did, which happened more often than not.
Yeah.
And then when I was done with Oakland, I went down to the Dominican and worked winter ball with Los Toros del Este. And when I was there, that's when I got the job with the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a winding road, as many of us in baseball know. You talked about kind of the baseball culture. I want to dig into that a little bit because I know that's so important. Guys like Nate Brooks, who've been in the game forever with Oakland, or with the Athletics. How important was it to have a mentor, Nate and other people you've mentioned, to just understand how baseball works, how to communicate with players who, some may not speak English, or how to act in the clubhouse, how to just manage yourself and your time in the training room. Coming from a college setting, it's got to be so much different. So how important was it to actually learn like what you can't learn in a textbook of what is baseball culture?
I mean, it was everything. I think that's why internships are so important because there's just that experience that you don't get until you're in it, until you make those mistakes, until you say the wrong thing, and then you have someone there to make you feel better about it or make a joke out of it so you can be embarrassed when you're at home, but not in front of the player in front of you.
Sure.
But I mean, you just don't realize the pressure that these guys face until you're right next to them and you're talking to them. It's their livelihood. It's not something they do for fun. It's something that they do to put food on their table, to send checks back to their home in Venezuela, the Dominican, for their families. Like, it's a whole different level of pressure. So having those people there to help me realize that and to show the empathy to them, I mean, you wouldn't get that without someone taking you under their wing and saying and educating you on where they come from and what they need and what you can get away with, what you can't, all those things.
Yeah, for sure. And you spent, as we mentioned, this is you're finishing up your first year in the Red Sox organization. You spent the previous 6 years with the Dodgers, ending up as their AAA athletic trainer. Talk about the decision to move over to the Red Sox. I know, such awesome people in LA, Ron Porterfield, Thomas Albert, just really good people. I'm sure it was a difficult decision for you. What kind of went into that? As your career progresses, I'm sure you're always looking for, what's next, or to take the next step in your progression. I'm sure it was difficult. What did you put into that decision, and how eventually did you manage to land with the Red Sox?
It was a very difficult decision to leave. I mean, the Dodgers were my family for 6 years, and in every sense, like, there's so many guys that I'm inviting to my wedding when that happens.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to leave your family and the people that grew you and the loyalty that you feel to them. It's hard to leave that behind. But I knew that it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up when I called Ron, who has just been like a father figure to me in so many ways. And
yeah, to many of us, for sure.
Yeah. I asked him, what's good about the Red Sox? Is this something that I should do? And he paused and he goes, they're a good organization. And when he did that, I knew that was an opportunity I couldn't pass up, because he knows me so well and he believes, you're successful when you're in an environment that you're meant to be in and where you fit in. And he knew that I would fit in well here. So for him to have that support, and it was a light bulb moment for me where I was like, this is a great opportunity I can't pass up. I knew I wanted to get into the coordinator role eventually, because I want to learn every level that I can and be the best at every level that I can, so I can do right by those around me. I've had so many great mentors too, that I just wanted to be able to pay that back and to finally give back to people in the way that people gave to me. So the coordinator to me was that ultimate role, to be that support person and to just learn a different level of the game and keep challenging me for growth.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned about Ron, he's one of those guys who, obviously it sucks to lose talented people in your organization, but he's always one to push people, even if it's kind of at the detriment of him, to go get what's next for your career. I think he's been so good at that, and his athletic training tree kind of speaks for itself. People he's touched along the way. Well, yeah, talking about your new role, it's much different. Like you said, you have a hand in every affiliate and even up to the big league level. Communication wise, talk to us about the first couple of days on the job, how you felt. Did you feel prepared for it? And just kind of the change overall in terms of being with an affiliate to the coordinator role.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big adjustment. Like I said, I'm very grateful to Ron, because he had so many moments with me where he just pulled me under his arm and showed me what was coming next. Even before I knew I wanted to be a coordinator, he had little exercises that he would do with me to prepare me for it. And the same with Jimmy Stellard over there, who's one of the assistant coordinators. He did the same thing. So I just was constantly put into situations to push me for growth and prepare me for what's next because those guys had the foresight to do that for me. So when I first started in Boston in spring training, I felt prepared because they unknowingly, or I didn't know, they prepared me for it. But there are definitely days where you go home and you think, wow, I don't know anything. So it's very
Yeah.
humbling moments, but those are the moments where we get the most growth and the most feedback and can
Hmm.
make a change for the better.
Yeah. And for the listeners out there who may not be familiar with the coordinator position, talk through kind of an overview of your responsibilities with the club, how you work with affiliates, and how you communicate with, Brad and Brandon at the big league level as well.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of the ultimate support person and communication liaison. So if you think about like a basketball team, I'm probably the point guard to where you
Hmm.
know the strengths of those around you. That would be my affiliate athletic trainers. You have to know how to set them up for success, how to help them become better, how to learn and grow, and become better versions of themselves. And that's how you get a successful team is when you understand your teammates like that. So as a coordinator, I have to know my affiliate staff. I have to know what they need to become better, what they need to get to that next level, give them opportunities for that growth, for learning, for that next step. But then also I have to be the main communicator. So I have to let them know what's going on. The
Hmm.
coach on the sidelines, front office, everybody I'm kind of the channel of communication. So that was definitely a big adjustment for me going from the AAA level to now being the point person and the point contact for so many different phone calls. I think I've had plenty of nights where it's 5 hours of 1 hour phone call a piece to five
Hmm.
different people. So
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard from many people in your position across baseball that coordinator role might be one of the most demanding in terms of communication and phone time in baseball. So it's interesting to hear you say that as well. I know people, across the league, like head athletic trainers at the big league level, communicate with each other and their colleagues at different teams. Do you guys, as coordinators, kind of work not together, but share stories, share tips, share information with other coordinators across the league, just to kind of feel out how other people are doing things in baseball?
yeah, for sure. I mean, winter meetings is big for that because you get to see everybody face to face and
Hmm.
swap war stories if you have them. So I've noticed that the coordinators in Florida have been so welcoming to me too. I mean, I was in Arizona for all of my career up until now.
Sure.
So Chris Whitman, he's a guy that I've talked to constantly throughout the
Hmm.
year too. We've swapped applicants when we have open positions.
Yeah.
He's been a great resource. So it's like kind of like an extended family, I think, at the coordinator level because we can all relate to each other.
Yeah, for sure. And Chelsea, kind of talking about workload, I'm sure it's different. Maybe you have less travel. You can let us know about that. But are there huge differences in workload from going, being at the AAA level with the Dodgers to being at the coordinator level with the Red Sox that you've noticed just through this first year in terms of maybe time spent at the office or time saved for not traveling? What have you felt like your time commitment has been from the difference in each level?
I mean, there's definitely, I think every level you have a lot of workload. It's just the lens that you look through. In AAA, it's
Hmm.
probably more of a narrow lens because your focus is on just getting guys available for the major league team, keep all your chess pieces on the board so you can set the big league club up for success. But
Hmm.
at the coordinator level, I have to have a really wide lens. I have to know what's going on at every level, anticipate the needs of the team, when to bring a guy down for rehab, for example, when to communicate to the major league team, to my front office. So I have to know what's going on at every level. And then I'm always by my phone, like kind of we touched on earlier. So I start
Hmm.
my day out at the complex in Fort Myers and I'll do administrative work, help out with the rehabs. And then I go home and I call the affiliates and talk to the trainers, talk to the front office if I need to, always on call 24/7.
Hmm.
Which is kind of fun too because you get to see their growth and you get to be that person for them. Like I had Ron for me, so
Yeah. And kind of in Ron's role with the Red Sox, Brad Pearson has been there seemingly forever. He's kind of a Boston legend up there. Same with, Brandon Henry. You guys, there's a great staff at the big league level. Are you in constant communication with them? Obviously, you're so close to AAA and people going up and down rehab wise. What's that kind of relationship with Brad and Brandon in terms of the coordinator position that you're in?
I talk to them both quite frequently, and they've been so welcoming to me. I was blown away by their open
Hmm.
door policy. Like Brandon told me whenever I do my affiliate visits to come up to Boston and spend some time with them, which has been awesome. I get to talk
Yeah.
to those guys, and everybody just wants to learn and to help each other. So that was it took so much pressure off of me coming in as a new person. It's
Hmm.
been already established family, the fact that they were so welcoming and open. And Brad and I talk multiple times throughout the week. Like he's kind of become my backbone here.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic. And I asked a former mentor of mine about those guys before I came over, and my mentor said, if there's one person that I had to work for again and report to, I'd want it to be Brad. Like he's just a phenomenal person to work for,
Yeah.
and he definitely lived up to those expectations. So I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, I think he just gives back. I think Brad is a testament to, you guys are all servants. You serve your athletes in the clubs, and I think Brad's an awesome example of that, and just a brilliant guy as well. So must be a great mentor for you. One actually, story when I had Brad on the show a couple months ago, he talked about spring training and getting his hands on athletes again, and his hands just being sore and him missing kind of being in that environment. Same question to you. You're not with a club right now, like you have been in the past. Do you miss being in there, working with your hands more, and treating athletes, or are you kind of really excited about, obviously you're excited about this role, but do you miss that kind of being in the training room like you used to be?
I definitely do miss it. I mean, there's nothing like being in a dugout and those
Yeah.
conversations that happen and just being front row to a game. I mean, it's great being in this role because you get to see a different side of things, but I
Hmm.
do miss that pressure of needing to win, the excitement of getting that win. You don't really get that in this role. So
Yeah.
whenever I go to the affiliates, it's a nice change for me because I get a little taste of that. It's not the same because obviously you don't go through a full season together, but
Hmm.
I mean, that's another great thing about Brad is I told him I miss treating players, and he's like, "All right, next year let's change that so you can treat a few more guys." So this
Yeah.
offseason, I've worked with a couple, and same thing with Brad. My hands are sore. So I got to get that back into shape.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Chelsea, shifting gears a bit, want to talk about the industry and kind of breaking ground. And as a woman, kind of working in a traditionally male-dominated field as athletic training and sports medicine, have there been any unique challenges kind of that you've faced or that you've had to navigate? For example, we had Lauren Powers with the Reds on a couple weeks ago, and some other women in the field talking about difficulties in minor league clubhouses, or a place to change, or a place to keep your stuff, just kind of differences as things adapt and grow for the better with more women in the field. Have you faced any of those challenges, or kind of what's your experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of change over the last few years. When
Yeah.
I first was in baseball, I mean, in the DR, when I was in winter ball, my locker room was the bus bathroom, which was not the most ideal place to change.
Yeah.
But I mean, from even my first year in rookie ball, I was at the Ogden Raptors, so RIP to the Pioneer League.
Yeah.
But I remember being in Grand Junction, and you have to serve the food in the locker room. So if I was treating post game, I couldn't get post game spread unless someone went and got it for me. And there
Yeah.
were definitely times where I was too
Wow.
busy or someone forgot, and I'd end up going back to the hotel and walking. One time I walked a half mile to a gas station just to buy a Lunchable so I could eat.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But that
Wow.
was the year that MLB started, or they started their minimum standards or started talking about it.
Hmm.
There's been drastic change after that. I mean, every facility has a locker room now. There's still work to be done in gaining access to it. You still have to cross some locker rooms during
Hmm.
times of changing, which is always somewhat uncomfortable, but uh,
Sure.
it's definitely gotten a lot better. At least we have places to change now.
Yeah, bus doesn't sound like the optimal place for that. But like you said, so much change has been going on for the better. Kind of looking back, Sue Falsone breaking in with the Dodgers, Nancy Patterson, Kelly Rhodes with the Tigers. So many talented women in athletic training, which is amazing to see. Did you have any role models specifically, any women across baseball or in other sports or in athletic training who kind of mentored you as you broke into sports?
Yeah, I mean, Kelly Rhodes has been a great mentor. I worked with her when I was with the Diamondbacks, and
Okay.
she's worked her way up from minor leagues up to the major leagues. Like she's
Yeah.
done it. So
Yeah.
that's been
It's
really
awesome.
cool to see.
Yeah, Kelly's one of the best, and definitely leaving her mark in Detroit, and been awesome to see that and watch her career grow. When you think about your hopes and dreams, kind of for the profession, for younger women or female athletic trainers who are in school and hearing this, and wanting to be in your position one day, which I'm sure there are many of them. Is there any advice you might share based on your experiences of how to navigate those challenges, or maybe you don't even see them, you just keep plugging away? Is there any advice you have for those younger athletic trainers out there?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say be authentic to yourself, figure out who you are, what you stand for, what lights you up, and then pursue that relentlessly. If you love
Hmm.
baseball, if you love basketball, football, whatever it may be. Figure out what makes you excited about the day and just don't take no for an answer, and
Hmm.
just grow yourself too. Find any opportunity you can to get better, whether that's an internship or a class to take or listening to podcasts. Like, find ways to make yourself better every single day and just don't accept no for an answer if that's what you truly love and want to pursue.
Yeah, that's great advice there. And is there any, you talked about the minimum athletic training room standards, something that I know Major League Baseball is working on constantly with some of the PBATS board members being involved in that as well. Do you guys, as women in athletic training, have a say, or are you able to meet and offer guidance for, because you're the one experiencing the challenges? Is there like a group of women athletic trainers that are kind of pushing forward those standards, or is it kind of like, everybody in the league is kind of working to make that better together?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely resources available to us as a whole, whether that's with athletic training or as coaches or whatnot. I know there's a WhatsApp group where people can lean on each other and talk to each other. The Katie Feeney Leadership Program has been awesome. I was able to take a part in that in 2023, I think it was. So that was great because we get to sit and talk with each other and say, hey, what are the challenges we're facing and what are we going to do to fix them? And then, I mean, even here in Boston, everybody's been so supportive. I talked to Raquel Ferreira. She's one of our assistant GMs because in our locker
Hmm.
room here, we only had one stall in the bathroom, and she changed it immediately. We've got two stalls now.
Hmm.
So she was awesome. I walked in there. She took her notebook out. She was like, all right, we're done. We're fixing it. And then that was that. So as long as we're not afraid to speak up and offer solutions to it too, and not just complain about things, like that's how we get change.
Let's pause for a quick message from our partners at the United States Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy.
All of us have a role to play in promoting a mental health friendly workplace.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for a supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can be a source of support.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others that none of us are alone.
And that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Now, here's more from our conversation with Chelsea Willette. Well, Chelsea, kind of digging into, we talked about the season this year and some other things. Want to talk a bit about the offseason. I know things just got finished with the Red Sox, obviously not the way everyone would have hoped in the playoffs, that is. What does kind of the offseason look like? I know you're, probably at the facility now and well on your way to preparing for the offseason. What does that look like for you? Like, when the season ends, what do you jump right into?
Next season. We're preparing. We look back at what didn't work, what worked well. We'll do internal audits and then get together and say, all right, what do we need to do to be better next year? What I love about this group here is that everybody's so focused and driven to win. Like, we aren't happy with complacency. We want to make it through the wild card next year. And
Yep.
that starts with day one. We didn't have the turnout that we wanted to. So the next day it's like, all right, what can we do to be better? So we've got some camps going on right now. We get to trial out a couple of ideas of things we want to do for next year in terms of testing or rehab treatments. And then we see what works and what doesn't, and we just make it better.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about testing and analytics and just data and getting better, so much has changed since I'm sure you've been in the profession, technology-wise and data-wise. How do you guys go about, as an organization and yourself as a coordinator, understanding what to pay attention to, what to use, what technology to invest time in to learn in the off season? How do you go about just staying in tune with what's new, but also balancing that with what's worked in the past?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be really strong in your foundation, your foundational knowledge, and strong in your clinical practice. Know what you're about, know what you want to stand for as a sports medicine group, and then just be open-minded to try everything. I always say, like, be skeptical about it at the same time. Make them prove you right or wrong for whatever you're trying to learn or whatever you're trying to get better at. So in terms of technology, there is so much out there and so much changing, especially with AI. So we have to be critical thinkers about it and not just take things for face value. Bring it in, try it out, see if it makes us better. If it doesn't, then we don't use it. And if it does, we have to tailor it to what makes sense for us as a group.
Mm-hmm. And in that same lens, growth as just a professional for you personally, is there anything you do in the off season to improve your skills, learn different skills, or anything Brad and the staff at the big league level kind of organizes for the Red Sox athletic trainers to kind of still continue and ensure that everyone's developing as they should be?
Yeah, I mean, we encourage everyone to take some classes on their own, but then we're also working on a group course together, whether that's we all sit down and learn from each other or bring somebody else in. Like it's a very, very important thing here that education is top of our minds, especially in the off season. That's when we have the time to push our skills and to grow and to become better. So we're working on some group things here. And then we talk to each other a lot. We have some sit down meetings, what worked well, what didn't work well. And then we just get better that way.
Mm-hmm. And kind of reflecting on, when you were in college or your first year in baseball, how much really have things changed, in terms of how the athletic trainer, or even maybe how the coordinator person in your position does the job based on new technology and innovations that have happened in baseball?
I think it's allowing us to be more proactive versus reactive. And in sports medicine, I think typically we were utilized after an injury happens.
Sure.
But now with some of the technology and shoulder monitoring that we can do, we can be more reactive. We can be more proactive in the way that we treat and to help. We monitor shoulder strength throughout the year. When we start to see trends in fatigue, that's when we can speak up and have a postural intervention strategy or correctives for a player, or we talk to our pitching coaches and let them know. But it's giving us the ability to prevent as much as we can. I don't believe we'll ever fully be able to prevent things, but it's giving us a leg up at least in that avenue.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to explain it is, back in the day, I think people thought of athletic trainers as, someone's hurt, let's rehab or let's treat them. But now there's so much information, like you mentioned, to help you get out in front of that stuff, which is really interesting. And I think a key part of the job. Well, Chelsea, I'm curious to know, so many years in minor league baseball, it's so time consuming. It's your life basically. How do you go about mentally and physically, I guess, just sustaining that passion? I know everyone's goal, majority of people, you want to get to the big leagues, you want to be in that dugout, which is awesome, but it can be, such a long road. How do you go about staying focused on kind of where you're at and where your feet are every single day?
I had a mental skills coach tell me my first year in baseball when I was feeling very burnt out. He pulled me aside and he said, listen, just find 3 things that you can finish your day and say, today was a good day because I did these 3 things. Keep it simple, make sure it's something that's meant for you and not for somebody else. And for me, it was have a good cup of coffee, get a workout in, and learn something that day. So it was
That's awesome.
Oversimplified. But if I got through the day and I said, all right, I did those 2 or 3 things, it was a good day. And then just build up your good days and, stay focused on where you're at. Don't think about what's happening tomorrow or down the road. And it helps the season become, I don't want to say tolerable because I love the game. But it just helps it become, not as daunting when you're thinking about the future. And, I've even heard someone say that if you think about the best moments of your life has always been out of balance in those moments. Your biggest personal achievements, you probably were with your family more, or you're working less, or your biggest achievements at work, like you probably had to put your family life aside. People will probably say, hopefully, some of their wedding days is the best day of your life, but you're not working on that day. Like that's your personal day. So it's just, knowing that having a work-life balance that's not always perfectly balanced is okay, because eventually it'll balance back out in the off season. The best moments that you experience and your favorite memories, something's going to be out of balance.
Yeah, I never heard that before. That's a great way to say it. And I also love the idea of the 3 things are so simple that you were talking about each day. It doesn't have to be overly complex when the world we live in is so much, complexity and information out there. I love the kind of simple mindset to having a good day. That's an awesome tip there. Chelsea, you mentioned the downtime you might get, maybe imbalanced, may not be, may work out in the end. When you do get downtime, perhaps this off season, what do you do for fun? Are there any hobbies out of sports? I know so many of us in baseball just like sports. That's what we do. What about you? What does the off season look like when you do get some downtime?
Sometimes I'll just decompress and read, just let my mind kind of relax and recenter. But I also like building things.
Okay,
I've
cool.
gotten into kind of woodworking. Like I like using my hands and creating
Awesome.
something. So I don't know if what I've created is the best quality, but it's been a fun process for me to try to figure out how to make something.
Yeah, doing something with your hands, I think everyone can agree, is relaxing for the mind and just feels good to accomplish something for sure. Well, to wrap up today, Chelsea, I'm curious, as you reflect on your journey through athletic training, is there anything you're most proud of? Maybe it's like a promotion or a story getting an athlete back on the field. Anything that stands out to you in your career? I know there's been probably quite a few of them, but curious if there's anything that stands out among all your memories.
Yeah, I mean, being a part of the World Series last year was kind of great.
Mm-hmm.
But what's most important to me, I think, is what I'm most proud of is just the patience that I've had so far, not wanting to just run through the minor league levels to chase a carrot and get to the next level.
Yeah.
If you slow down and are grateful for each day, then that's when you get the most out of it. So it's the journey that's helped me get to where I am, because it takes time to hone your craft. Ron used to always tell me it takes 10 years. And I think he was right. And, I spent 4 years in AAA, and it wasn't until that fourth year where I thought, okay, I know what I'm doing. So I think that's important, even for younger clinicians, is like just to be patient, enjoy where you're at, because it's a privilege to work in pro baseball, and just don't forget that, and remember that it's a game too. So you're supposed to have some fun.
Yeah, definitely tough to remember that at times, I'm sure. And then, the last question for today, a lot of our listeners, as I mentioned, students, professors, people that are in education, and younger athletic trainers, any advice for someone not only looking to get in to baseball athletic training, but to pursue a long career like you're putting together?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of ties into something I mentioned a little bit earlier, and just that, find what lights you up and pursue it. You have to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, you're going to find ways to be miserable every day. And we spend most of our lives at work. So who wants to be miserable where we spend the majority of our day? So there's no right or wrong answer to that. If you get into baseball and after 1 year you realize that's not for you, that's okay. You have to figure out what you love. And hopefully it's baseball. I think it's such a special game that gives so much back to you. But if it's not, then just figure what that is and pursue it relentlessly. Yeah,
great advice for everybody out there. And Chelsea, thanks for sharing your insight, your experiences, and passion for athletic training on the podcast today. And we wish you and the staff in Boston nothing but the best of luck this offseason.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. For more information about PBATS and athletic training, visit pbats.com. See you next time.